Welcome to Behind the Doors, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of residential real estate investing. I'm your host, Dan Noma Jr., here with my co-host, Marvin Cruz.
We're here to help you unlock the best strategies and practice for investors. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro looking to scale your portfolio.
We've spent decades navigating the ever-changing world of real estate, and now we're sharing everything we've learned to help you succeed.
From off-market deals to cash flow management and everything in between, we'll break it down and bring you actionable insights that can make a real difference in your investments.
So get ready to open the door to new opportunities and take your real estate investing to the next level. Let's dive in. All right, Marvin, we are back, man. Behind the doors again.
Here we're back
on
again.
The couch.
Oh, so happy to see you.
Back on the couch.
So happy to have our guest here.
Yeah.
Mr. Ramon Casaus.
Casaus. You got it.
Amazon bestseller.
Yeah, we'll go with
Every
that.
time I see you, I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get this book, by the way. No permissions needed.
Careful what's in Google.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's on his website. It's not Google.
Yeah.
It's his own.
Is it on there?
It's your own bio that you wrote. I'm not Googling.
Yeah.
This is him right here.
There it is.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think in this one, what I want to get into is Proptech.
Yep.
I want to talk about
cool.
some of these companies and what happened and where they're at and all of this stuff. Because like we see a lot of them. We are one of them. Mm-hmm. You've touched a bunch of them, invested in a bunch, and like
seen some stuff.
know all these things. So let's scratch the surface on Proptech because this is a fun one. Let's start with iBuyers because this will be an easy segue because they kind of all started from Opendoor, right? Like when Opendoor came into the market here. Mm-hmm. So this is trying to remember. This is probably 2015, 2016. Opendoor walks into the Phoenix market, right? And they came here, and I had some friends there and knew the CEO, and so I was kind of connected to them, and I thought that their model was crazy, right? I honestly didn't believe it. And they said to me that they were going to be able to buy properties and they were going to charge the seller a 15%, fee or convenience fee or service fee, and also buy the property at somewhat of a discount. And they would do it and they were going to buy these properties for cash, and they thought that they could buy more properties. And like, mind you, I was kind of selfishly, I was not hoping that it would work because I was that guy, right? Like I was the place where people would go to get their cash offer previously. Mm. I didn't charge this 15% fee, and I didn't really even understand like how this was all going to play out. But they came in, and I mean, until I started losing deals to them, that's when I became a believer, right? And that's when I was like, okay, I get it. It took a while, right? But I think what Opendoor sells, and you may have a different take on this, but I think what they sell is they sell convenience, similar to kind of what we sell as a cash buyer. Yep. But they've made convenience super easy to get and then commercialized it, right? Because it wasn't that way before, and now everybody's on television talking about how you can buy your home for cash, right? Because they've commercialized convenience as an option, for people that want to sell. So when did you start hearing about these guys?
I started hearing about them probably in like 2019. Yeah, I want to say Albuquerque's a little. At the time, they weren't really there. Yeah. So I heard about them while I was here, and we had heard some, hedge funds and just different institutional players that were interested in our market, and we worked with a few, but I really got involved with Opendoor when I moved here in 22, and I worked with them a lot, and we have like some exclusive partnerships in Albuquerque still. And I thought there is a segment of the market who that's what they're looking for. I do believe that. Yeah. I always look at the net out and be like, hey, I probably pay you a little bit more for the house if you're going to sell it for this cheap, know? But I think what I've learned buying real estate for myself is that some people don't look at real estate the way you and I do. Yeah. I look at it as a tangible asset. Right. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. Yeah. And so I think that's a phenomenal option. Convenience, you mentioned it, and there will be people who do that.
Yeah. I mean, people are willing to give up equity It's like monopoly money to them, right? That blew my mind, right? Because I was taught you had to sell the home in the shortest period of time for the most money. That's what everybody wanted.
100%.
Right? So if I was going out on a listing appointment, whatever I was doing as an agent, I was trained by an agent here, and she told me that you had to sell the house for the most money in the shortest period of time, and that was your job. And I
Bottom
was
line
like,
in real estate. Yeah.
okay, cool, right? And then so here these guys come in and they're buying these houses at 80 cents on the dollar, 70 cents on the dollar with a fee of 15%. And I'm like, I don't understand. But then it just dawned on me. I was like, well, maybe like all of that isn't true. Right. Like maybe people's relationship to equity is different than what I thought it was.
I think that's it.
It's just different, you know, and like it's just they're not as attached to it. And maybe that's a generational thing. I don't know, right? Because I've only lived in this one, so I don't know. But like maybe like our grandparents cared more about equity than people do now. I don't know. Or is it just that our thought of the relationship is different?
Or it could be just their situation, right? Maybe they do have a situation that they just have to get out, and that's where this cash offer is just touching them.
Right.
You mean there's a way out of this thing? Because that's what I've been dying to do, and that just touched their hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, like, okay, so let's, change the tune a little bit. Open Door as a company, like, they had a lot of successes in buying thousands and thousands of homes. I mean, they're still today buying homes, still active, but as a business have not figured out a way to make money. Right. And I think that's says something, right? And we should probably look at that a little bit and go, okay, that's a thing, right? So I don't know. What do you think on that?
Not make money. And then recent study I was reading, cash on hand is also drastically decreasing.
Yeah.
Mike Del Prete does a pretty good job of following Open Door, and I read all of his stuff. And I mean, but they're not the only ones operating a non-profitable business model that's fueled by, the future growth, right? But I find it very challenging, and maybe somewhere in the P&L, this fee, I think the fee is what's most intriguing to me, because the fee itself, you think about the spread of what I buy it for, what I sell it for, what I put into it, then what I sell it for. But the fee is a constant. And I think that, there could be a play where that fee itself is the profitability model if we break even on everything else.
Right.
And, brokerage as a whole, like that's common, especially for regional and independent brokerages.
Right.
You lose money on the real estate, but make money on title and mortgage. So I could see that as a long-term play. Just the question is like, at what scale does this actually make money? And then can it weather the ups and downs of markets?
Right.
I think that's everything looked good in 2021 and 22 and 2020.
Right.
The question is, can it look good when the tide goes out?
Right.
And so far it's been not really.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I've been an investor. I've been a partner of theirs. I've been a listing broker of many times of listings for Open Door. I've been really close to this and watched their journey. And, every time I'm kind of scratch my head and I wonder, I'm like, but at the end of the day, the investors that are dumping all the money into making this billion-dollar business, are they going to want a return? And when do they want it? It seems like now we're starting to see the tide go out a bit. And, the stock price is, the stock, I believe it opened at like $22. I think is the day of the IPO was like $22. And today it's trading below $1.
Yeah.
And it got as high as I think it got into the 30s at one point.
Yeah.
And now we're trading below $1, right? And if you read all of the consensus over Wall Street about it, their concern is the balance sheet risk, right? They're like, look, these guys own a bunch of real estate. At any given time, they could own 200,000 homes, right? Or 100,000 homes. So they own all of these homes at any given time. Right. What if property values evaporate or it becomes harder to get a mortgage and they own them longer? That seems to be the fundamental problem of where they're struggling to capitalize on the business. I don't know. It's a tough one. That's a tough business.
Yeah. I mean, the question is like, even a local flipper, what happens when the market starts declining and they have inventory?
Right.
And then not only if they get out of those deals, but then what do they do when the market's declining? What do flippers do, locally? Well, they pick and choose and they buy deeper. And if they can't buy deeper, they don't do the deal.
Right.
And so that's what I think is fascinating about the market is like, how do you maintain the growth in that market without just offering people the most ridiculous amounts of money for their homes? And I guess if someone's willing to sell it, I mean, you can buy it. I mean, I guess there's nothing against that, but I just find it challenging as the market slows up and is even plateauing a lot across the country and decreasing. I just don't know how you make it's a flipping business at the end of the day. How do you make it profitable? I don't know.
Right. But at the same time, like parts and labor is going up, right?
Another variable
that we got to go through and climb through over the next couple of years. So.
They've definitely got pickier about the properties that they will buy, right? Like I think that was an early mistake was like, let's buy a bunch of properties, don't care about the condition, any of that. We'll clean it up, we'll make it habitable, we'll make it safe, right? That's their whole mantra. Like they don't technically remodel homes. All they do is they make it safe, they make it habitable, and they make it financeable, right? And that's the end game for them. They want the buyer to buy the property in that condition, and then you do whatever you want with it. I've heard them talk at length about this, and their whole thesis behind it is they're just creating a transaction, right? They're making a frictionless transactions for you as a seller, so you can sell the house to them, and you can move out whenever you want to, right? 2 weeks post closing, whatever. Like you get to go. And then for the buyer, the buyer doesn't have to schedule a showing with somebody that's got kids or dogs or whatever they've got to clean up, right? So it makes a frictionless sale for a potential buyer on the other side of it.
Little video walkthrough.
And so like that all of that makes sense. But at the end of the day, like how do you make money doing this if you're not buying the properties at a deep enough discount to be able to do it? And I think we saw the demise of this in Zillow, right? And Zillow was really public about the fact that they had made a mistake, right? They
calculated error.
Yeah, they were overpaying, thinking that they were buying market share, right? And they thought that home prices were going to continue to go in that direction, and that they were going to be safe on all of these properties. And the blend between the ones that they won on and the ones that they lost on, there was still going to be profit at the end of the day. And that just ended up not being the case, right?
Far from the case.
So it was a very expensive lesson for them. And OfferPad too, right? Like OfferPad is an interesting model too. It's different than Open Door. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're the same thing. Not really. Like, I mean, they are. Like, they'll buy your property for cash.
What's the fundamental difference between the two?
Well, I think that OfferPad is probably more of a flipper, right? I think that they really do care about their construction side of their business. And they were a lot more selective on the properties that they bought, right? So they weren't trying to buy every property. They would never say that, right? And I happen to know like their executive team just from years of living here and knowing them. They're real estate guys, through and through. Like they are true real estate people. And I don't think that they were buying properties and overpaying for them, right? But to run a national model at that kind of scale just became big, right? Just a big behemoth.
I would also say from like a real estate agent standpoint, I mean, I've never come into a situation with any iBuyer where the iBuyer would like they could get a better deal when you do the net out, the true net, from an Open Door than they could from a local investor. And the cool part about the local investor, especially if they're going to flip the properties as an agent, I mean, if have that conversation, maybe some paperwork, like you get the listing too. And I think that's something I look at as I'm like, well, who would I actually rather fundamentally help out? You know, the person who helps improve the community, who's here locally, like local economy. I'd much prefer to do that. But I think the question is, Open Door is saying, how can we get to the consumer, just consumer direct? Like if they can figure that, which I think they figured it out. I think that, I mean, their their inquiries to their site is absurd. So I don't know, just from an agent standpoint, I've always, when you actually do the numbers, it's like, okay, I can probably get you even a little bit of a better deal. And it's somebody who's local.
I mean, we've seen them both pivot to, you know, from direct to consumer as kind of the sole purpose. And we're going to come in and replace agents. And I don't think anybody's ever actually officially said that. I don't think either company was like, we're here to replace real estate agents. But that's been the mission, right? The mission was like, sell us your house, we're going to replace them.
Here's a question. Do you know of any prop tech company that has effectively sidestepped completely or removed the agent out of the transaction that's profitable?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually was at, so Del Preti has this thing called the Hub.
Oh, you went to Boulder?
Yeah.
Oh man,
And
that's so cool.
I've been in the Hub now for about a year, and then I've been up there to meet with him and do this. And yeah, I mean, we talked at length about this, and you know, so it's you would enjoy it. You should sign up. It's fun. But yeah, no, there's not one that we can find that, you know, that has
but
been.
What do you guys think that is?
You
just think it's still a relationship business at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like, you know, to me, it's like the plumbing exists, right? As a company, how can you, the people that are selling their house, so in the context of like an Open Door or Homeward or, you know, any of these others, like the people that are selling their house do this once every 5 years statistically, right? Whereas we do this every day. So like for us, it's very easy to have that conversation or dialogue. So think about it. Like if you were going to send an email to somebody and say, this is how much you're going to pay for your house. And then if you're interested, call us 1-800 number, and then we'll do this. And this is the biggest asset of their life. Yeah. I think it's hard. I think that they're just having a, like, you know, they're just having a hard time.
Yeah. Sorry.
You know, sidestepping and going, I can trust this, you know, so the brand trust is probably.
Yeah, but I think the everyday person, what they hear is, I'll get more money this route because I don't have to pay the real estate agent these fees. I think that's what they hear. And maybe that's why they're so enticed to do it. But
yeah, there's also just so many variables. Yeah. I mean, that's what's hard about real estate is that there's just so many variables, and those variables also change depending on the location, the property type, like the seller situation. I mean, there's so many things that a skilled agent calculates and also theoretically repeats on multiple occasions in a specific market. And I think that itself is what's so hard to replicate with automation or going around the agent. I mean, I think Zillow's probably gotten the closest with their Flex program at getting the biggest chunk so far of the commission for providing the lead. But I mean, yeah, I think that's, if I could boil it down, I think it's that. And I think, relationship, like, we can all get, you can put your blood work and put all your stuff in the Chat GPT. You can you can probably run a pretty successful, I know you can, a pretty successful audit. Right. But when push comes to shove and you got a weird pain, where are you going? Who do you want to talk to? Yeah. Right. I want to talk to a specialist. And I don't think that's ever going to change. That's my opinion.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we saw that, like, remember when Open Door first came out and in the houses, they were putting in the home automation thing so that you could show it yourself. Yeah. So it was like self-showing. Yep. So consumers didn't even need an agent to open the doors. Yep. And what they realized is like every house was so subjective that it just became brutally expensive because these cameras that they were putting in the house to like monitor activity, the front door locks, all of this stuff, it would break. It didn't work sometimes. It just was kind of a mess. And then every house setup was different, so they couldn't systematize it, and so that was like one of the first things that they eliminated was, the self-touring piece.
What's funny about that too is like, if you look it up on maybe Chat GPT or something, I knew the dollar amount, I just can't remember it right now, some $1 billion number of money that's been put into the Proptech residential real estate industry. Ooh. And I mean, as somebody who delivers, I call us like, we're the true last mile logistic. That's what these companies are trying to figure out. They're building an ecosystem from the top down, and they haven't figured out the last mile yet. Like, we deliver the last mile. I can tell you that keys, for example, so billions and billions and billions of dollars put into all this tech, all these things we're talking about. And I'm telling you right now, the way we exchange keys is they text the agent, hey, where's the key? Oh, the key's on the side of the house under a rock. Okay, cool. Can you send me a picture of the rock? Yeah, picture of the rock. Yeah. All right, cool. Send picture of rock to client. Client says, okay, what side of the house is on? Oh shit, let me check. It's on the right side or left side? Left side. Okay, got it. Client, left side of house, rock, key under. Let me know if you find it. It's like, you think that these problems are being solved on the ground, but they're really not. And I always found that fascinating. Yeah. And I think that's where like the companies that learn to partner with the last mile logistic, I think, and empower it, I think they're going to win. Yeah. And so far, nothing's proven otherwise.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why like a company like Homeward, right, is they don't work directly with sellers. Like they simply don't work directly with sellers.
Yeah.
They're similar to our model. Like we don't have a direct to consumer model as a result of the fact that I know that our offer is better served by an agent
Yep.
than any way that I could serve it up myself.
So like, can you be direct to consumer, but at the end of the day, you deliver a professional consultant to walk them through I mean, I think that's really the game I see. And that's what Zillow's kind of doing at some level, right? They're like getting an inquiry. They're saying, hey, okay, we've weeded out, the agents that are serious and the ones that are really good and have, organization and systems and processes. We're going to deliver that person to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that seemed to work so far, just, I don't know, from a profitability standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that they're doing great. The model is unique, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where the challenge becomes, is like for the consumer with the Homeward model, like you're partnering with Homeward.
Correct.
And you're now the partner of Homeward. You're not getting all of your equity up at closing. You're getting most of it, but you're not getting all of it. And then the rest of your equity rides on the success of them remodeling your home and then subsequently selling it. And they control pricing on the way out the door. So you as the seller lose a little bit of that control, but you're putting your equity in the hands of a professional. Like they have a lot of wins. So you just have to be willing to be comfortable with that, And I think the other challenge is like agents being able to articulate it and of how it works is difficult. So, those kind of models I think are tough, but they work, they work. What about the new one? Have you seen these new ones where the companies are like partnering with you on the acquisition? So you go in, they'll buy with you. And then they own,
co-investing model.
Yeah. So
I'm on the advisory board for Crib Equity.
Yeah.
And you familiar with them? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that model is phenomenal. And I love the fund model that's behind it, right? Because I'm like, can you get, as an investor, exposure into the single family world without the operating expense? And that's, from a business standpoint, I'd love to do that. I'd love to get my returns right now and not deal with the properties.
Right.
And so they do that really well. But I think, the explanation of the actual value proposition, like I can do it.
Yeah.
But I think what's hard is to get a direct to consumer, because it is a little tricky, like to understand it. So the educational piece, like whoever can figure that out, I do think there's a place for that. And especially in an affordability, market like we're in, that's a big factor. The other part though, is that like the QM and non-QM. So a lot of them are non-QM. And so if we're talking about affordability, we both know that that's not really the bucket that people who are looking for affordability are fishing out of. Right. They're using some type of assistance loan. So I think that's the other tricky part is, it's about affordability. Yes. But at the same time, the people using it, I almost think it's more of an affluent buyer program. That is more sophisticated and understands, capital risk, right? I don't want to put all my chips in here. I want to keep some off to the side. I think that's really who it's for today.
Yeah. One of my neighbors was asking me about it the other day. And I said to him, think about this. Like, let's say you wanted to live in $1 million home, but you could afford a $600,000 home, right? So the benefit for you as the buyer is that you only got to really come up with the 600, and the balance of that equity is owned by somebody else, right? And he was like, well, why aren't more people doing that? And I said, well, it's tricky because now you've got a partner, right, as part of this thing. So when you want to sell, they're also selling, right? And I know the agreements are all flexible and allow them to do that, but it doesn't allow you the freedoms that you once had, right? Or you can't just go get a home equity line, for example. That's not an option.
I ran into a couple up in Flagstaff where you can't even stay in there the whole time. Like you can only stay so much of the year. So like you have to give it up.
Like a fractional ownership deal.
You gotta be very careful with that as well. So
right. But some of those, like I met somebody like Picasso is a big one, right? And I had never met anybody that owned a fraction. like never met someone.
I've still never met anyone.
I met somebody. So I met him. I was in Napa with my wife for her birthday, and we met a guy, and he was telling me that he lives in Southern California, but he goes up to Northern California quite often for business. And he bought a fractional Picasso deal in like a winery, and I saw the property. It's amazing. And for him, it makes total sense. Like when he was breaking it out for me, he's like, look, I own this thing. I'm going to be here all the time anyways, right? And I get to stay in it. And it's not like I'm renting an Airbnb. Like I own a fraction of this place. Like it worked out really well for him. So I think that they're going to do really well. I think that with now the people that are, more nomadic, or people that are, traveling for work or whatever, like, why not? I mean, if you had a fraction of these houses in every area, the homes are beautiful.
Yeah.
And you get a piece of each one of them. It's kind of cool.
I think too, like if they can figure out like the liquidity factor, right? Like if you can buy, like whether it was like tokenized in the future, I'm just throwing it out there, but if you could really trade that equity that quick, where it doesn't have to go through a standard loan process or anything like that. I mean, obviously you pay cash for it, which I think a lot of people probably do.
Yeah.
I think that's what's also fast. That model's great, but can you make that ownership transferable with ease?
Right.
Because then you get into a world where people are trading, swapping, and I mean, it really becomes fun. I like that model a lot. I always have.
Yeah.
I just always wonder, how does it work? Maybe he explained this. If there's 8 people or 7 people or 5 people, you own 1/5, 1/7, whatever. How does it work when you go there? You guys are all sleeping on the same beds and stuff. Like, is it like an Airbnb? Is it, and you take all your stuff out, you leave some stuff.
You gotta book it, right? Like you gotta book something.
Yeah, you book it like an Airbnb, but it's yours.
Okay.
So like the soft goods and all the consumables and stuff like that are put in there by like property managers, like you would have in a short-term Airbnb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you use them, and if you want to bring your own stuff, whatever. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he seemed content with it, and I was like, okay, well, this sounds awesome. What other cool ones have you seen out there? What other Proptechs are cool right now?
Crib equity was cool. I like that one. Try to think what else has been. I mean, I wouldn't say there's like a specific, but I've been going down the AI rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I don't have like a specific Proptech company that I can reference like that I know of that's really on the cutting edge. I mean, House Canary is a company I speak with pretty frequently, and I love what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, I think like I'm interested in when does 90% of the workflow that an agent do, when is it in AI? Like when do we get to that point? Like, because you're very familiar with the data of real estate. And I mean, you can just about put together any data set of anything. And like, when does that become a tool where I can say, here's what I'm looking for, find me this, all of America, click.
Right.
Like, when does that happen?
Yeah. I think we're getting close. I mean, probably closer than you think,
I'm sure.
Like we've got something on our app for one of the companies, and you can now type in, it's very similar, but it's just the one market. So you go in there and you're like, hey, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a pool. I really like, a big front yard, and I want the property to have a red door.
Yeah.
And it will find that.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I'm talking about. On a corner lot.
Yeah.
And that's specific.
Right. It'll do that, but it's, but I think that it's early. So I think there's still, because, you're not getting like the same subset of photos across every property too. Right. So there's just a variable, because how agents are putting, 2 photos in one, and then next one, you've got 300 photos.
I've seen some with the wrong house.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's tough. The one that I think is also interesting are some of these guys that are doing some of like the aggregation, where, they're submits here, and then I'll give you 40 different options. Right.
Okay.
I wonder, like, those models, I think, have some legs in the future, right? I think that there's some interesting stuff that those guys are doing. The one that comes to mind is like Keller Offerings, right? What those guys are doing is interesting because they're just now facilitating offers and different Proptech options for agents, and they're giving them one place to go submit it, and then they go submit it and translate it into what all these other companies need, and then translate it back to the agent. In one simplified form.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I think that has some legs but they survive on the back of like, do all these other companies actually perform, and do they actually, do they make out for it? So I don't know. It's interesting stuff.
Keller offerings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it related to any specific company, or is it just Keller? That's their own.
Yeah, no, I think now aren't they are, Marvin, they're offering it to outside brokerages too, right?
Both. Yep.
What do they call it, outside brokerages?
I can't remember, but I'll definitely
So it's in the Keller Williams world.
Yeah, it's on.
I've not heard of it.
Yeah,
that's new to me.
Yeah,
Check
it's
it out.
cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They're local guys here that are doing it, and it's. I think but like companies like Open Door and OfferPad and stuff like that, they've for a long time wouldn't play in this box, and they still won't.
Sure.
Because they don't want to be aggregated.
Yeah, no.
And so I think that becomes a thing. But like, I don't know. So I mean, it would be great, right? If you were a real estate agent and you could just submit to one place and you could get all of these different Proptech options. But then I think, like, on the other hand, if you're the Proptech company, what's the value in it for you, right? Because you want that quality lead, and your customer experience gets diluted
and your cost
in an aggregation,
depending on your cost.
So yeah, it's interesting, man. I just think that, like, I think Proptech's got a long ways to go, and I think there's a lot to be said here, and a lot of pieces to be going on. But everything from like the beginning of the transaction, like you see companies like SkySlope and even like Follow Up Boss, and some of those big acquisitions that we saw, those guys, into the inspection, right, where you see like Inspectify.
Yep.
And the stuff that Inspectify is doing now with inspections, it's amazing. I mean, it's hard for the mom and pop home inspector to compete with them now, right? Or not just be in their network.
Right. So I guess the question is, who brings it all full circle?
I know.
Because that's really we sometimes we use the word portal. I like to use ecosystem, but who brings the whole ecosystem full circle? I mean, that's really, I think, the question.
Yeah. Well, Zillow says they're the closest, right? And that's their mission, is they want to create the super app.
Yeah.
So the super app is, maybe we see it in our lifetime. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe the super app. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Doors. We hope you found today's insights valuable for your real estate investing journey.
Remember, real estate success doesn't happen overnight, but with the right tools and strategies, you can build long-term wealth and create passive income.
If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with others who are passionate about real estate investing.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for more tips and exclusive content.
Until next time, keep unlocking new opportunities, and we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Doors.